I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, ready to rumble. The two presidential contenders have settled on a time and place to debate.
Donald Trump lost two debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal.
Getting battle ready. The U.S. promises more military aid to Ukraine and raises the possibility of less restrictions on how it's used. Ready for a forever home. How one organization is helping thousands of children in foster care in the U.S. and around the world. And ready for retirement. One dog had her day and now she's done after winning the big prize. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Isidore the Farmer. Our top story tonight, mark your calendar for the first presidential debate. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump say they are willing to meet face-to-face next month, but the details remain uncertain. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Well, good evening to you, Tracy. As they say, if you can't watch, set your DVR. Not one, but two debates scheduled so far, and already the insults, teasing and taunting have begun.
President Joe Biden uses social media to issue a challenge. He's making plans to debate former President Donald Trump just days after we asked when.
Mr. President, when will you debate President Trump? When?
Today's video from President Biden makes it clear he's willing to go head-to-head with his rival.
Donald Trump lost two debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Former President Trump issued a quick response on Truth Social, writing, "Crooked Joe Biden is the worst debater I've ever faced. He can't put two sentences together. Crooked is also the worst president in the history of the United States, by far. It's time for a debate so that he can explain to the American people his highly destructive open border policy, new and ridiculous EV mandates, the allowance of crushing inflation, high taxes, and his really weak foreign policy." The former president agreed to debates in June and September, even though the two sides have not agreed on the rules. Biden wants a small venue with no live audience, but Trump counters, "I would strongly recommend more than two debates and, for excitement purposes, a very large venue, although Biden is supposedly afraid of crowds. That's only because he doesn't get them. Just tell me when, I'll be there. Let's get ready to rumble." Both campaigns are sidestepping the Commission on Presidential Debates. The two showdowns instead will come June 27th on CNN and September 10th on ABC, if nothing changes.
It should be, yes, in studio with no audience so that the candidates can clearly articulate their visions for the country, free of distractions, free of spectacle.
First of all, I'd say that this is a huge win for President Trump and his campaign, drawing out Joe Biden early.
In a tweet, President Biden writes, Trump says he'll arrange his own transportation. I'll bring my plane too. I plan on keeping it for another 4 years.
Also tonight, the Biden campaign does not want Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the debate stage and does not want Fox News involved. For his part, former President Trump wants a third debate on Fox in October. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Owen. And for analysis, we turn now to Dr. Todd Bell, Director of the Political Management Program at George Washington University. Dr. Bell, great to be with you today. So after much speculation, looks like the debates are finally happening. But why are the candidates bypassing the Commission on Presidential Debates, and is that at all unusual?
Good to be with you, and thanks for having me on. It is unusual. The Commission for Presidential Debates has been doing this since the 1988 election cycle. But before that, it was actually run by the League of Women Voters, and both parties changed and put together this commission because they were not happy with the rules. And here we see again that the Republicans 2 years ago voted to withdraw from this commission and to try to figure out how to do their own debate. So this isn't the first time this has happened. The candidates want more control, and the type of control that they want is very different, as you heard about some of the things that Joe Biden is asking for.
Yeah, and it sounds like, one of the debates is going to happen in June next month. That's before either one of the candidates is actually the official nominee for their party. Now, has that ever happened before? And what about the timing of the debate?
Yeah, this has never happened before, and we are going to have the longest general election in history because we know the nominees, and we're going to have this debate in June, which is completely unprecedented. How is this going to work? Well, both of these candidates are really going to try to set the stage for what they want to talk about for the rest of the summer. They're going to try to set the agenda and put particular issues out there so that people will be thinking of them. For the Republicans, it's going to be crime and immigration. And for the Democrats, it's going to be abortion and the threat to democracy posed by a second Trump campaign.
Yeah, let's talk about those issues. What would you like to see the candidates debate about? And what do you think the American people, what do they really want to hear?
Right. Well, I think that two of the things that Biden asked for, which was the cutting of the mics so that they can't talk over one another, and the studio audience actually would make for a better debate for voters so they would learn more. And the reason is this. When you have the live audience, you have the candidates trying to put together what we call a zinger, or something that's memorable that gets played over and over in the media again afterwards. When they're not playing to the audience, they're going to have to talk more about what they want to do for the American people. And of course, when they can't talk over one another, that limits that too. So I'm hoping that we're going to get more policy discussion out of these debates.
Yeah, and also, as we heard, missing from these debates are the other candidates who are currently running. I know there are certain metrics that the candidates have to reach in order to be considered for these debates. That said, do you think it would be beneficial for the American people to hear from the other people that are running?
Right. Well, in a democracy, more information is certainly better than less, but we probably wouldn't even get these debates if there was going to be a third-party candidate. The Republican and Democratic Party have not put a third partisan on the debate stage with them since Ross Perot. And when he was on, he was able to generate a bit of momentum. They don't want that to happen again. And with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pulling disproportionately from, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., nobody knows who he's pulling from. There's some studies that show he's pulling a little more from the Democrats, some a little more from the Republicans. He's really a wild card, and that's one thing you don't want on the stage is a wild card.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Dr. Bell, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Great to be with you.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken has wrapped up a two-day visit to Ukraine. During a press conference with the Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs, he reaffirmed the U.S. support for its ally with this announcement.
We have, of course, the supplemental, and the assistance from the supplemental is on its way. In fact, some of it's already been delivered. But today I want to add to that by announcing that we will provide an additional $2 billion in foreign military financing for Ukraine.
We appreciate the sincere commitment of the United States to compensate deliveries, delays in deliveries with new announcements and new deliveries. And this is why I so much emphasized the issue of timing.
This announcement comes as Russian troops suppress a new offensive in Ukraine's Kharkiv region. This was a scene in one neighborhood after it was hit by Russian missiles. Ukrainian authorities are working to evacuate all residents in the region. And for more, let's bring in Peter Zaumeyev. He is a political scientist and director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative, and he is currently in Kyiv. Thank you so much for joining us, Peter. First, your reaction to the additional $2 billion in military aid. And why is that really important now?
Well, it is very important because obviously Russia is trying to gain the upper hand here in the east, especially in the Kharkiv area, after Congress prevaricating and vacillating for 6 months. Now that the Western weapons are starting to flow into Ukraine again, Putin knows that this window of opportunity is closing, so he's going to try to grab as much land as possible. When it comes to the city of Kharkiv specifically, they probably lack the requisite strength to take that city by storm, by an outright sort of frontal attack, but they are going to try to make it unlivable, essentially, and create tremendous humanitarian catastrophe by making the residents of the city evacuate. It's a city of 1.5 million. So imagine what that will do to the already dire situation, humanitarian, military wise, etc. I mean, I'm speaking to you in a situation of a blackout. We have been having rolling blackouts, sort of what we did a year ago, because Russia has been able to strike at our power facilities and knock out a significant portion of our power over the last few months.
Hard to imagine. And Peter, as you know, I mean, Kharkiv is only 13 miles from the Russian border and is being hit continually. I want to play something for you. I want you to listen to this. This is from Secretary Blinken and what he said during a press conference.
We have not encouraged or enabled strikes outside of Ukraine, but ultimately Ukraine has to make decisions for itself about how it's going to conduct this war, a war it's conducting in defense of its freedom, of its sovereignty, of its territorial integrity.
Peter, your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think that sounds like a shift in U.S. policy?
I think it's a cautious first step in that direction by the U.S. policy. It's following in the footsteps of Britain. James Cameron, the foreign minister there, came out very strongly. It said that Ukraine can use British missiles to strike into Russia's territory as long as it's of military significance. And this is something that the U.S. should have done from the beginning. As it is, Ukraine has been fighting with sort of a handicap, with its, arm tied behind its back, and all it's doing is it's increasing the eventual price that both Ukraine and its Western allies will have to pay to keep Vladimir Putin at bay. This is definitely not a very fair fight. And finally, I think Western allies, and Washington in particular, are coming around Ukraine's position. It has to be able to strike deep inside Russia's territory the way Russia's been doing in Ukraine.
Peter, we are almost out of time, but I have to ask you this. I mean, you are in Ukraine right now. You are seeing all of this firsthand. Who is winning this war? Who do you think is winning it, Russia or Ukraine?
Well, this is, I think it's pretty much tied right now, but basically just going back 2 years and Russia expecting to walk over Kiev in like 3 days, capture Kiev and have Ukraine capitulate. We're in the 3rd year of this war, fighting against the world's 2nd largest army. I think in itself, that's a victory of sorts.
Oh, Peter, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We really appreciate it. Be safe. Well, on the eve of his trip to China, the Russian president says that he is open to negotiating with Ukraine about ending the conflict. Vladimir Putin made the remarks during an interview with Chinese media. Putin said, quote, "We have never refused to negotiate. We are seeking a compromise, sustainable and just settlement of this conflict through peaceful means. We are open to a dialogue on Ukraine, but such negotiations must take into account the interest of all countries involved in the conflict, including ours." In recent months, the Ukrainian president has signaled his willingness to negotiate by offering a 10-point peace plan. It was rejected by Russia. Well, panic in Slovakia after the prime minister is shot multiple times, leaving him in critical condition. The attempted assassination on Robert Fico took place following a political event. He was taken by helicopter to a hospital. Slovakia's president says the suspect is in custody and called the shooting an attack on democracy. President Biden says he condemns what he called a horrific act of violence. A massive manhunt is underway in France after an armed gang killed 2 prison officers and seriously injured 3 others while helping an inmate break out of jail. Officials in France say unprecedented measures are being deployed to find the suspects. The French National Assembly held a moment of silence to remember the officers, as did prison workers. The escaped convict Mohammed Amra has at least 13 convictions for robbery and other crimes. The prime minister says those responsible will pay for what they have done. Well, a change in leadership in Singapore has a new prime minister taking over. Lawrence Wong vows to make, quote, tomorrow better than today. The previous prime minister stepped down at age 72 after 2 decades in office. Singapore has remained neutral in China and U.S. conflicts, and Wang says Singapore will seek good relations with both nations. House Republican lawmakers took aim today at Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra as he testified before lawmakers about next year's budget request. Republicans took him to task over what they claim is the Biden administration's radical political agenda, accusing his department of attacking religious freedom, parental rights, and pro-life measures. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has that story. Eric?
Good evening, Tracy. There were definitely fireworks at today's House Education hearing. Republicans grilled the secretary on what they deemed as warped policies. Meanwhile, Democrats came to his defense. Committee Chair Virginia Foxx didn't mince words, saying that the long-standing Hyde Amendment, which prevents American tax dollars to pay for abortions, is not in next year's budget.
Enforcing taxpayers to fund abortions, HHS is trampling on the rights of the unborn and religious Americans.
Others tried to get the secretary to admit abortion is the killing of a human being.
Do you think abortion is a good thing?
I think for many women it is a
Do you think abortion is a good thing?
I think for many women...
Okay, so do you think abortion is something that should be reduced or something that should be expanded?
I think women should have access.
Congressman Bob Good then asked the secretary about government funds being removed from hospitals if doctors don't want to perform abortions due to religious convictions.
If you oppose abortion, you oppose the determination of life in the womb, the killing of a child in the womb, that's discrimination?
If a person is being denied the health care that they need, then that requires action to be taken.
Later in the hearing, the HHS secretary highlighted what his department has done to protect abortion access.
We have gone all the way to the Supreme Court to protect a woman's access to medication abortion, mifepristone. We have gone all the way to the Supreme Court protecting a woman's right to emergency care services. We are continuing to enforce laws that require providers and insurers to offer contraception services.
Lawmakers questioned the secretary about the loss of tens of thousands of unaccompanied migrant children and whether they should be returned to their own countries. The secretary put the blame on Congress.
The president has asked you all to change the law. There was a bipartisan bill to change the law.
I think I've only got a little bit of time left. I think the reason that you're doing this, Mr. Secretary, and your boss, Joe Biden, is because Democrats are getting rich off of it.
Democrats came to his aid, highlighting the department's need to increase its budget. Even Democratic leadership applauds his efforts.
What we've seen time and time again is, House Republicans level attacks that aren't based on facts. We appreciate the fact that Secretary Becerra continues to want to expand opportunity for everyday Americans to have health care.
Republican lawmakers also questioned the secretary about HHS's commitment to offering puberty-blocking pills to transgender minors, all of which was included in HHS's over $1.8 trillion budget proposal. The final budget must be approved by Congress by October 1st of this year. Tracy?
Eric, I understand a major piece of legislation passed the U.S. House today and that it's heading to the president's desk. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, that is correct. The Federal Aviation Administration Reauthorization Act did pass the House. It's the department's 5-year budget. Now, major provisions include passenger safety, along with new technology and the hiring of even more air traffic controllers and safety inspectors. So we'll have more on that story as soon as the president signs it. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
A barge has slammed into a bridge in Galveston, Texas, causing oil spills and closing the only road to a small island. Officials say a tugboat lost control of 2 barges that it was pushing. The bridge connects Galveston to Pelican Island, which is home to a shipyard and a university. Lawmakers are asking questions about the electrical blackouts aboard the ship that collided with the Key Bridge in Baltimore. The chair of the National Transportation Safety Board provided an update.
On the 26th, when the ship was about 0.6 miles from the bridge, 1 high voltage and 1 low voltage breaker that were powering most of the vessel's equipment and lighting unexpectedly tripped. As a result, the vessel lost main propulsion.
She added that 2 blackouts occurred due to routine maintenance in port. 2 others were related to the unexpected tripping of circuit breakers. More information is being gathered. The full investigation could take a year or more. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including new numbers. The Centers for Disease Control has good and bad news about overdose deaths here in the United States, and a closer look at foster care in the U.S. and one group's efforts to find forever homes for children. Welcome back. The CDC says the number of fatal drug overdoses fell last year, but adds that it is too soon to celebrate the decrease. Officials say the data is not finalized and could change after more analysis. For now, CDC numbers indicate around 107,000 people died of overdoses in the U.S. last year. That is down from 111,000 overdose deaths in 2022. Well, May is National Foster Care Month, a time to bring awareness to the more than 400,000 American children in foster care who range in age from infants up to 21 years old. KidSave is one organization dedicated to helping children in foster care, particularly older children who are often overlooked. For 25 years, the group has made it its mission to help children in foster care and orphanages find secure, loving homes in which they can flourish. And joining us now to talk more about all of this is Randy Thompson, co-founder and CEO of KidSave, and she is also an adoptive mom. Randy, good to see you again.
So nice to be here and see you again.
So, I just mentioned some of the numbers of children in foster care, hundreds of thousands of children just here in the United States. Can you give us a sense, Randy, of, who some of these children are and how they ended up in the foster care system?
I like to say they're just like your kids and my kids. I mean, they're children who have the same wants, needs, and desires, but they ended up in the system because of loss, neglect, sometimes because of abuse. They're parents who weren't able to take care of them, and so the country, the government has put them into the system. The goal is, of course, to get them back to their families if they can, but if they can't go back home, then we work to find them connections to either loving mentors or adoptive families.
Yeah, and I know that you focus primarily on older children. Talk to us more about that and why that's so important.
Well, the stats show that once a kid reaches the age of 10, their chances of being adopted go down exponentially. So as an adoptive parent myself, as I was meeting kids and seeing that, the ones that are older are really forgotten. So what we wanted to do as an organization was to bring those kids back into the community, kind of shine a light on them and get them an opportunity to meet and get to know people in the community, not necessarily for adoption. Ideally, that would be the case, but at least to have someone who's there with them to help them as they exit the foster care system.
Yeah, and as parents, we know it's really important for children to have stability, especially for those that seem to be, going from one home to another and had a lot of trauma. And that's not just children here in the United States. I mean, you help children everywhere, including in Ukraine, and you've been there since 2016. Talk to us about those efforts and what KidSave is doing for those children.
Yeah, we went to Ukraine in 2016 because at that time there were more than 100,000 kids living in orphanages. And we were working with the Ukrainian government to help to get them out of orphanages and into Ukrainian families. Then, of course, when the war started, we had to pivot quickly because we had put these children in families and we wanted to keep them safe. But as the war progressed, we realized that we had to help people to get out of the war zone. So we did a major effort to help people to leave the war-torn areas. In fact, about 30,000 people were taken out by KidSave. And now we're helping those people who can't leave or who won't leave because they're elderly, and as a result, their children and their children's children are still there. We are providing them with humanitarian aid. But while the war is going on, we're still working to get kids into families. In fact, this summer, we're opening a center in Western Ukraine, and we're bringing 50 kids, taking them out of the war, and we're going to keep them at the center for July and August. But while they're there, we're hoping to introduce them to Ukrainian families who can take them permanently so they never have to go back to a shelter or an orphanage.
Almost out of time, but where can folks get more information about KidSave and get involved?
They can go to our website, kidsave.org, or they can call us at 888-KidSave.
Wonderful. Randy, thank you so much for being on today and for all that you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Republican governor of Mississippi signs a measure restricting transgender people's use of bathrooms and locker rooms based on their biological sex. The new measure says people are only allowed to enter spaces that correspond to their sex assigned at birth. Anyone who violates the policy could be sued. Opponents say this would put those who identify as transgender at risk. At least 11 other states have enacted similar measures. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, charity cases. Pope Francis reminds the faithful of one way to find the Holy Spirit. Plus, a well-known dog trainer is putting his career on pause. We'll explain. More than 230 wildfires are burning across Canada. Most of them are in British Columbia, where residents are being ordered to evacuate. The blazes have scorched tens of thousands of acres. This image here from NASA shows wildfire smoke blanketing parts of British Columbia. On fire in Fort McMurray is nearly out of control. Because of the intensity of the flames, firefighters are being pulled from some fire lines. Amid the horrific flooding in Brazil, local churches are seeing some of the worst effects. So far, 31 Catholic churches have flooded. One parish served as a rescue spot for more than 1,000 people. And one priest says, amid the hard times, God will help and increase our faith if we ask. Pope Francis reminds the faithful that charity is the work of the Holy Spirit in us.
Quanto difficile è perdonare. Quanto amore ci vuole per perdonare.
At the weekly talk at the Vatican, the Holy Father says that charity enables us not only to love God, but also those people that it is difficult to love. Pope Francis also encouraged the faithful to practice Christian kindness, since in our final moments, we will not be judged on generic love, but precisely on charity. Finally tonight in New York, an achievement that is nothing to sniff at. A miniature poodle named Sage wins the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. It marked the 11th time that a poodle won the prestigious award. Only wire fox terriers have won more. Congrats to Sage and her handler, who retired after 45 years. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night, and God bless.